Friends, gather around because tonight we're diving into the thrilling world of international trade. Just kidding, it's about as exciting as watching paint dry, but unfortunately, way more important to your life and ability to buy reasonably priced underpants. It all started with the current administration's trade policies, specifically the tariffs imposed on goods from China. Essentially, tariffs are like taxes on imports, making them more expensive for American consumers. The idea? To encourage buying American-made products. The reality? It's complicated. The initial volley of tariffs started small but escalated faster than a toddler with a juice box and a trampoline. We're talking about a 145% tariff on some Chinese goods. China, not one to back down from a trade-related showdown, retaliated with their own tariffs on U.S. goods. And just like that, we were knee-deep in a trade war. Now you might be thinking, so what? A few extra bucks for my novelty t-shirts, no biggie. Oh, sweet summer child, if only it were that simple. See, this trade war has a ripple effect, and the first wave is crashing right into the shipping industry. Ocean freight bookings, the lifeblood of global trade, have plummeted. We're talking a 60% decline in shipments from China to the US. And before you get any bright ideas about reviving that old pirate cosplay, let me tell you, this ain't the kind of shipping news anyone wants to hear. This slowdown means delays, my friends. Glorious, soul-crushing delays. We're talking weeks, potentially months, added to the time it takes for products to reach our shores. And what happens when the ships don't come in? That's right, shelves start to look emptier than a politician's promise. So, what are businesses doing in the face of this trans-Pacific trade typhoon? Well, they're scrambling like roaches when you turn the kitchen light on, to find alternative sources for their goods. Think Vietnam, Southeast Asia, India, basically anywhere but China. But let's be real, it's not as simple as swapping out one supplier for another. These countries have their own trade policies, their own production capacities, and their own levels of political stability. It's like trying to replace your ex with someone you met on Tinder. Sure, they look good in pictures, but who knows what you're really getting into. And let's not forget, this whole trade war thing has made the global market about as stable as a Jenga tower built by a caffeinated squirrel. Tariffs are like that friend who always brings drama to the party. You never know when they're going to show up, but you can be sure they'll ruin the mood. Section 4, A House Divided, the U.S.-China trade relationship. Now, to truly understand the depth of this economic pickle, we need to talk numbers. The U.S. imports a mind-boggling amount of stuff from China, over $400 billion worth annually. That's everything from electronics and clothes to those little plastic toys your cat immediately loses interest in. Meanwhile, the U.S. exports a comparatively paltry sum back to China. We're talking a trade deficit bigger than the Grand Canyon, folks. This imbalance is at the heart of the trade war, with the current administration arguing that China isn't playing fair. But here's the kicker. This intertwined trade relationship benefits both countries. China gets a massive market for its goods, and the U.S. gets access to affordable products. It's a symbiotic relationship, albeit one that's currently experiencing a very public and very messy breakup. Section 5, Small Businesses, Big Problems, the Tariff Tightrope. Now, while the trade war affects everyone, there's one group getting hit particularly hard: small businesses. See, big corporations have the resources to weather the storm. They've got lawyers, lobbyists, and enough cash reserves to make Scrooge McDuck jealous. Small businesses, on the other hand, are like the little guy in a boxing match with Mike Tyson. They're already struggling with thin profit margins, and these tariffs are landing like uppercuts to their bottom line. They don't have the luxury of quickly shifting production or absorbing increased costs. And let's not forget, many small businesses rely on those same Chinese goods that are now subject to tariffs. It's a classic case of being caught between a rock and a hard place, except the rock is a trade war, and the hard place is impending bankruptcy. Section 6, The Price of Uncertainty, Broader Economic Consequences. So, if this trade war drags on, what happens? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because it ain't pretty. Remember those empty shelves we talked about? Yeah, they're just the tip of the iceberg. We're talking about widespread product shortages, from the mundane, goodbye cheap socks, to the essential, hello price hikes on electronics. And as businesses struggle to cope with rising costs and dwindling supplies, layoffs become inevitable, unemployment skyrockets, and the economy takes a nosedive faster than a lead balloon. The International Monetary Fund, the guys who wear the really boring ties and tell us how the global economy is doing, have already sounded the alarm. They've slashed growth forecasts and warned of dire consequences if this trade war continues. It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck, except the train is the global economy, and we're all passengers. Section 7, a looming crisis, potential shortages, and the need for change. So, what's next? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The longer these tariffs remain in place, the more likely we are to see those empty shelves turn into a full-blown crisis. Certain products like home goods, furniture, and yes, even clothing are particularly vulnerable, but there's still hope. If both sides can come to the negotiating table and hammer out a deal, we might just be able to avert disaster. It'll require compromise, communication, and perhaps a healthy dose of Xanax for everyone involved. The bottom line is this trade war isn't a game. It has real-world consequences for real people, from the factory worker in China to the small business owner in Iowa. It's time for cooler heads to prevail, for diplomacy to replace bluster, and for all of us to remember that in a globalized world we're all in the same boat, and right now that boat is taking on water fast.